Hey, what's up everyone? Dr. Brent Thierry, Total Spine Health and Injury Center in Maple Grove. And I wanted to take a minute to shoot a quick video for you guys because I just had a conversation with a patient about cracking her own neck and cracking her own back, and whether it's good or it's bad, if it's doing the same thing, if it's doing something different. And I wanted to kind of just dispel a couple of the myths and maybe change the narrative around what some of us think about this process. But I will say that there's kind of some big differences between getting a specific chiropractic adjustment versus just kind of generally crunching and cracking and popping. And I will be the first one to raise my hand and say that I've loved to crack my own back in the past. But there's definitely a difference between getting a specific adjustment and and just generally kind of moving things on your own. So what are the big differences? Number one is specificity, all right? So when you get a chiropractic adjustment, we can identify a specific joint, a specific area of restriction or dysfunction that's causing a problem, and we can go in there, we can use an adjustment to get that joint to function properly and move, to take pressure off the nerves, to allow the surrounding muscular structures to relax. So that's the big thing. We can get very specific, whether it's in the neck, the mid-back, the low back, wherever, we can get right onto that level, and that's where we can apply that adjustment itself. When we tend to just crunch and crack our back or our neck in general, something completely different is really happening. So we're getting mobility, we're getting motion into the spine, but the difference is we're not really affecting a specific level, meaning that usually we're just putting gross motion into all of these areas. And what happens is, let's say we have a joint that's stuck, but we have all these mobile joints around there. Which one do you think is going to move easier during that stretch or that crunch? It's going to be the ones that are already mobile. So this causes another problem where we continue to have a joint that's restricted, but we continue to move joints that don't need to be moved over and over again. So we have hypermobility, too much motion at one area, and then hypomobility, not enough at another area. And neither one of these actually fixes the underlying problem. So she asked if it was okay if she continued to crunch and crack her back, and I told her kind of those differences, right? Now, I do have a stipulation with this, is generally mobility is good. So if you feel the need to crunch or crack, there's a difference between stretching and getting something to kind of generally release passively on its own and putting a whole bunch of force into a joint. So what I mean by that is, let's say you just bent your neck to the side and did a nice easy stretch and something happens to release, perfectly fine. There's a difference between that and actually putting a ton of force into that joint. Same thing with that lower back. If you're going through your yoga poses, or if you're doing some of the stretches on your own at gym or at the gym or at home, and something happens to release, that's okay. But there's a difference between that and grabbing a chair and wrenching around and putting a ton of external force into that joint. So that's what I wanted to clear up, is just to let you know, no, they're not the same. And I know that's a bummer, because it's nice to be able to do some of those things too. I wish I could adjust myself as well, but unfortunately I have to go to a chiropractor to get adjusted too. But there is a difference. There's a difference, and the biggest thing is both of them are putting mobility into the spine, but the specificity of where that adjustment is actually being applied is the big difference between a general crunch and crack and an actual chiropractic adjustment. So hopefully that kind of cleared up some of that maybe misconceptions or confusion around that too. But I can tell you this, is when people do get in and they actually get specific work done on the right areas at the right time, the right direction, the right force, you can see some amazing changes as the body starts to remove stress and adapt and get back to the way it's supposed to be. If you have any questions on this stuff at all, please reach out. I'm more than happy to answer any questions and help you guys along in your health journey. Have a fantastic day. Thanks for hanging with me for a few minutes.